Modals, or sometimes called pop-ups, are a great way to display extra information or to actually get information from a user using sign-up forms, for example, without actually leaving your current screen. They're usually triggered via an on-click method or possibly scrolling into view as well. There are CSS frameworks such as Bootstrap which makes making modals quite simple, but I'm always of the opinion that you should have some sort of idea of how to build them yourself. So that's what I'm going to be covering today, is how to build your own modal in React. How modals generally work in React is that you have a state to say which modal is going to be open, and that the modal component is within the parent of the app, for instance. And then you pass in the functions that open and close the modal to the respective children. Now, I've got two different ways that I want to show, really. One is a simple method where all of the modal information will be within the component itself. So if I just open up this simple modal, the title, the content, the close button, all that is within the component itself. I'm also going to be showing you how to close the modal via this cross, close, or even clicking the overlay function here. Then I'm going to go over a reusable modal, which is quite similar to the first one, but in this case you only have one modal component. Then I create an array of objects which contains the information about the modals there. Pros and cons of each. The first one, it's very simple. It kind of helps you compartmentalize, I find, so you know which modal you're working on if you open up a file. But if you have a lot of modals, then it can get a bit too much. With the reusable modal, you have the one component which is nice and easy to manage. However, if you again have a lot of modals, the array can then become a little bit unmanageable. So pros and cons depending on your use case, which one you go for. And this is the reusable modal with extra buttons and the same modal component. So this is the example we're going to work through. Right now I've got the buttons and the HTML written up, but none of the modals are working or created, so let's dive right in. So first up, I want to create my state, which will manage which modal I will be opening. So we'll just give it const open modal set open modal and use state. We're just going to set this to null for now. Going to create two functions, one to open and one to close the modal. I like to use IDs, and this will make it a lot easier when using the reusable component as well. So we'll pass through an ID here. And all we need to do here is say set open modal to ID. We'll just copy this down and call it close. And set this to null. Then we'll just create a new component. We're going to call this one simple modal. Oops, rename that. Export default. And this will take an ID and the close modal function. Div and so how I like to set up my modals, I put them all in a container and then have the overlay and then the modal content afterwards. The modal content, I generally split that into 3 rows. That will be the title, the content itself, and then the buttons at the bottom. So we're going to give it the div overlay class. And we don't need to pass any content through here, but we can add the on-click straight away. And that is going to be a simple on-click. When you click on it, you run the close modal function and pass through the ID. And here we will just add in the modal content, for instance. The title section, we'll just give this a H, we'll go H2. And just for the cross, I'm going to do a P tag, just give it an X. And again, we can just copy this on click because it's going to be the same function which closes that. Title, my first modal. So we've got the title. Now we can just add in the content. And we're just going to give this some random content. Lorem, ipsum, that'll do. And then finally, just we'll give it a footer. And this will be a button. Copy the on click again. And we'll just call this close. So if we add this modal to the app now, and we can add it in underneath this button, for instance, but I want to only show it when the open simple modal button has been clicked. So to do that, we can do open modal is equal, we'll do strict equality, simple modal, that is going to be the ID I'm going to give this one. And we'll call it simple modal ID, simple modal, and close modal is equal to close modal by ID. And just close that off. We also need to actually add the open modal by ID to the on click. Pass through the ID of simple modal. Lowercase simple modal. We go back to the app. Let's just close this off for now. There we go, but all my content shifted. That is not how a modal is supposed to work. So we need to style the modal. But the close function works. That's all good. So let's style this very quickly. Let's create a new file. Let's call this modal.css. We'll use this in the reusable component as well. And we're going to import this right straight away. Import it to the simple modal. Styles modal.css. Great. So first up, we've got the modal container. So we are going to target that one. And that's going to be position fixed. Just to make sure it's always visible on the screen. Top of 0, right of 0, left of 0, and bottom of 0. So now if we go over and we try it, it's right at the top, brilliant, but you know, it doesn't look great. Let's add in the overlay. This is going to be position absolute again. Position, we'll give it a height of 100%. Same with the width, just to make sure it takes up the entire screen. And finally, a background color. You can change the background color to whatever you want, really. I'm just going to use RGBA, put it as black, and probably 0.3 maybe. You can make it as dark or as light as you want by changing the alpha value. And that's looking better, but now this looks a bit strange still. And as you can tell, I just clicked on the overlay randomly and it closed off. So great, the overlay close function is working, nice. So what's next? We've got the modal content itself. Give this a position of absolute again. Give it top 50% because I like it in the center. And transform it. Translate is -50 and -50, just so it is in the center. Give it a background of white. And I always like to have a little border radius going on, just so things aren't like sharp corners. We'll just do this as 8 pixels. And a little box shadow as well. Let's try and make this a little nice, shall we? 4 pixels, 0, and RGBA. We'll just use the same value. So now, how does this look? It's getting there, a little bit crowded. The title is a bit weird, so we'll add some padding on as well. Padding, we'll do 20 pixels. Looks better. So as I mentioned earlier, I like my modals just in 3 sections. It makes it easier to understand. I'm going to use display grid here, but you can use flex if you like. Grid in my mind just makes more sense. So it's only going to be 1 column. And we'll give it as 0.1, auto, and 0.1, just so the actual content can grow as it's needed. So we'll target the title and the p tag. Top we'll say 10 pixels and right 20 pixels. I'm just going to change the color to gray, just so it doesn't stand out as much. It's not too bad. I always want a cursor pointer just so people know that it can be clicked. Yeah, it's looking a little bit better now. I kind of want this close button over on the other side though. That's just my preference again. So we'll do footer, justify self, and nice. Again, got an index CSS file which has got a few stylings in. I just want to add the button here, and I'll add cursor pointer, just so it again looks like we can close it. And that is the simple modal itself. The reusable one is going to be very similar indeed. So we can actually just copy this and paste it in there, and we'll rename it reusable modal. And all we need to do really is delete this part and replace it with content, which will pass content through up at the top, and of course rename the function reusable modal. We'll add the reusable modal here at the top. Now there's going to be an extra state that I want to use just so we can understand what the current data is going to be. So I'm just going to call this current data and set current data. And I'm going to reuse these open and close modals by ID, but just to make things a little bit simpler, if the ID is equal to simple modal, I want to stop there. Otherwise, I want to set the current data, but we need to create the data first. So const modal data is going to be an array of objects. They're going to have an ID. So modal 2, for instance, terrible ID, I know. Hopefully you can come up with better IDs. And then we're going to pass content through, which is going to be JSX. And we can use the same classes and structure as before almost. So let's just copy this to save a little bit of time. So copy this in here. Just tidy this up ever so slightly. So reusable modal number 1 on click close by, we'll call this modal 2. Did you know liking the video increases your chances of winning the lottery? Man, I cannot type today. Lottery. This is a joke. And then we can add in extra buttons if you want. So if you had a multi-step modal, this would be perfect for this. Modal 2. Or just use the other button to close it as well, but something awesome will go here. And then to get this working, we need to set the data. So we can say const data is equal to modal data dot filter x.id is equal to id. Oops. And then we'll just set current data to data. Perfect. You could set current data to null here. It would be nice to tidy it up. Let's just do that. So that is the first record, and we'll have a look. So if we go up modal by ID, we'll just call this, is it modal 2? And we can do a similar check down here, but we only need the one modal, even though we're going to have multiple data. First, just because I've got the simple modal in, I want to make sure it doesn't open when open modal is equal to simple modal. That's just an extra check. But if open modal is not null, we can then pass through current data.id content equals current data.content, and we still have closed modal by ID, so it's perfect. If we go to the app, let's have a look. That's not worked, has it? Also need to actually replace simple modal with reusable modal. That would help. Got a mistake here. I left in the closed modal, which comes from simple modal. It should actually be closed modal by ID in here instead. Let's open that. There we go, perfect. And something awesome. Everything closes nicely. And just to show you the second one, if we add in another record here, modal 3, call this modal 2, subscribe if you enjoy the video. And we'll get rid of an extra button there. Let's make sure these are modal 3s. And then finally, we just need to add in the open modal by ID. Double check that. And this should just work as it currently does. So you got open modal 1, close that, open modal 2. Brilliant. And that is the end of how to create a modal in React. I will push this to GitHub if you want to check out the code there yourself. Links to everything will be down below. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, and if you'd like to see more, then please subscribe. Hope you all have a good day, and I'll catch you later.